The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers on my old Volvo working overtime. I'm Tobias, and until a few weeks ago I thought I had it all. A comfortable life in Seattle, a job I enjoyed as a software architect, and a wife, Vivienne, whom I adored. We'd been married for 15 years, a milestone we celebrated with a trip to Italy, or so I thought. Vivienne worked as a marketing director for a large tech firm, a high-pressure job that often demanded long hours. I never minded. I knew she was ambitious and I supported her wholeheartedly. But lately things had felt off. She was distant, preoccupied, and her excuses for late nights at the office were becoming increasingly elaborate. It started subtly. Vivienne's phone, usually left carelessly on the kitchen counter, was now always within arm's reach. She'd flinch if I got too close when she was texting, and her passwords, once easily guessable, were suddenly Fort Knox-level secure. Then there were the unexplained charges on our credit card, expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of, a weekend stay at a boutique hotel downtown. When I asked, she brushed it off as client meetings or team-building exercises. I wanted to believe her desperately, but a nagging feeling of unease persisted. One Tuesday, Vivienne claimed she had a conference in Portland. "It's a big one, Tobias," she said, kissing me goodbye at the door. "Lots of networking opportunities." I smiled, wished her luck, and watched her drive away. But something felt wrong. It was a gut feeling, a cold knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. That evening I found myself unable to focus on work. The silence in the house was deafening, amplifying my suspicions. I decided to do something I'd never done before. I snooped. Vivienne's laptop was on the kitchen table, still logged into her email account. I knew it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't resist. My heart pounded in my chest as I clicked on her inbox. The first email I saw was from a travel agency, confirming a flight to Rome for two people. The dates coincided with our anniversary trip. My blood ran cold. I scrolled further, my hands shaking, and found a string of emails between Vivienne and someone named Gareth. The messages were filled with intimate details, inside jokes, and blatant declarations of love. "I can't wait to be with you in Rome," Gareth wrote in one email. "Just a few more days until we can escape this charade." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The room spun and I stumbled back, knocking over a stack of cookbooks. The truth hit me like a tidal wave. Vivienne was having an affair with Gareth, and she'd been lying to me for months, maybe even years. I sank into a chair, numb with shock. How could she do this? How could she betray me after all these years? We had built a life together, a home, a family, or so I thought. Now everything felt like a lie, a carefully constructed facade that had crumbled before my eyes. I spent the next few hours in a daze, rereading the emails, trying to make sense of it all. Gareth, it turned out, was a consultant who had been working with Vivienne's company on a major project. They had met at a conference in Chicago 6 months ago, and the affair had apparently started soon after. As the initial shock wore off, anger began to simmer beneath the surface. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly heartbroken. I wanted to confront Vivienne, to scream at her, to demand answers. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I needed to think, to plan, to figure out how to deal with this devastating revelation. I decided to call my best friend Anselm. We'd been friends since childhood, and he was the only person I trusted completely. "Anselm, I need your help," I said, my voice trembling. "Vivienne's having an affair." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "What? Are you sure?" Anselm asked, his voice filled with disbelief. I told him everything about the emails, the lies, the gut feeling that had been gnawing at me for weeks. Anselm listened patiently, offering words of comfort and support. "Come over," he said. "We'll figure this out together." I drove to Anselm's house in a fog of anger and despair. He greeted me at the door with a hug and a bottle of whiskey. We sat in his living room for hours, talking, drinking, and trying to make sense of the situation. Anselm was furious on my behalf, but he also urged me to remain calm and think rationally. "Don't do anything you'll regret," he warned. Together we hatched a plan. I wouldn't confront Vivienne immediately. Instead, I would gather evidence, document her lies, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation. I would also consult with a lawyer to understand my legal options. "Knowledge is power, Tobias," Anselm said. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be. The next few weeks were excruciating. I lived a double life, pretending everything was normal while secretly gathering evidence of Vivienne's affair. I installed a voice recorder in our bedroom, hoping to catch her talking to Gareth on the phone. I hired a private investigator to track her movements and document her meetings with her lover. I felt like a spy in my own home, a stranger in my own marriage. The evidence piled up quickly. The private investigator provided photos of Vivienne and Gareth holding hands, kissing, and entering a hotel together. The voice recorder captured snippets of their phone conversations, filled with promises of love and longing. Each new piece of evidence was like a knife twisting in my heart. I consulted with a lawyer named Ilara, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who specialized in divorce cases. She reviewed the evidence I had gathered and confirmed that I had a strong case for divorce. "You're entitled to a fair settlement, Tobias," she said. "Don't let her bully you into accepting anything less." Ilara advised me to open a separate bank account and transfer half of our assets into it. She also suggested that I document all of Vivienne's spending habits, especially any large or unusual transactions. "She may try to hide assets or run up debts before the divorce," Ilara warned. "You need to protect yourself." As I prepared for the confrontation, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and loss. I had loved Vivienne deeply, and I had imagined spending the rest of my life with her. Now, that dream was shattered, replaced by a bitter reality of betrayal and deceit. I knew that I would never be able to trust her again, and that our marriage was irrevocably broken. The day of the confrontation arrived sooner than I expected. Vivienne returned from her conference in Portland looking tired but happy. "How was it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Oh, it was great," she said, smiling. "Lots of good contacts. I think it will really benefit the company. I couldn't take it anymore. The lies, the deceit, the pretense of normalcy. It was all too much." "Vivienne, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. She looked at me, her smile fading. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I know about Gareth," I said, my voice flat. "I know about the affair." Her face paled. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "I've seen the emails, the photos, the hotel bills," I continued. "I know everything." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Tobias," she stammered. "Please let me explain." "Explain what?" I asked, my voice rising. "Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to me for so long. Explain how you could throw away 15 years of marriage for some consultant. I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice choked with sobs. "It just happened. Gareth and we connected. I know it was wrong, Tobias, but I couldn't help myself. You couldn't help yourself," I repeated, incredulous. "What about me? What about our marriage? What about the vows you made?" "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." I stared at her, my heart filled with a mixture of anger, sadness, and disgust. "Sorry isn't good enough, Vivienne," I said. "It's over. I want a divorce." The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings, financial negotiations, and emotional turmoil. The divorce was messy and acrimonious. Vivienne fought me every step of the way, trying to minimize her financial losses and paint herself as the victim. But I had Ilara on my side, and she was a formidable opponent. In the end, I got everything I wanted: a fair settlement, custody of our dog, and a clean break from Vivienne. I moved out of our house and into a small apartment downtown. It was lonely at first, but I gradually adjusted to my new life. I focused on my work, spent time with Anselm and other friends, and tried to rebuild my shattered life. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to move on and find happiness again. One evening, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I said. "Tobias, it's Gareth," the voice on the other end said. "I need to talk to you." My blood ran cold. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. "I know this is difficult, but I need your help," Gareth said. "Vivienne is in trouble," I scoffed. "Why should I care?" I asked. "Your problem now, it's not that simple," Gareth said. "Vivienne, she's been diagnosed with cancer." I was silent for a moment, stunned by the news. "What?" I finally managed to say. "It's true," Gareth said. "She has stage 3 breast cancer. The prognosis isn't good." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up the phone and never speak to Gareth again. But another part of me, a part that still cared about Vivienne, felt a pang of sympathy. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I need you to talk to her," Gareth said. "She's refusing treatment. She says she doesn't deserve to live. I can't convince her to fight. Maybe you can." I hesitated. Could I do it? Could I face Vivienne again after everything that had happened? Could I put aside my anger and resentment and offer her support? After a long silence, I made a decision. "Okay," I said. "I'll talk to her." I met Vivienne at a coffee shop near her apartment. She looked pale and gaunt, a shadow of her former self. Her eyes were hollow, filled with a deep sadness. "Tobias," she said, her voice barely audible, "thank you for coming." We sat in silence for a moment, both of us unsure of what to say. "Gareth told me about your diagnosis," I said finally. "I'm so sorry." Vivienne, tears streamed down her face. "I deserve this," she said. "I've been a terrible person. I hurt you so badly. I don't deserve to live." "That's not true," I said, my voice firm. "You made mistakes, Vivienne, but you're not a terrible person. You deserve to fight for your life. You deserve to be happy." I spent the next hour talking to Vivienne, listening to her fears and regrets and offering her words of encouragement. I told her that I had forgiven her, that I didn't want her to die with guilt and remorse. I urged her to seek treatment, to fight for every day, to find some meaning in her life. To my surprise, she listened. By the end of our conversation, she had agreed to start chemotherapy. The next few months were difficult for Vivienne. The chemotherapy took a toll on her body, leaving her weak and nauseous. But she persevered, supported by Gareth, her family, and a team of doctors and nurses. I visited her occasionally, offering her comfort and support. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right thing to do. One day, Vivienne called me, her voice filled with excitement. "Tobias, the chemotherapy is working," she said. "Tumor is shrinking. The doctors say I have a good chance of recovery." I felt a surge of relief and happiness. "That's wonderful, Vivienne," I said. "I'm so happy for you." Vivienne eventually went into remission and began the long road to recovery. She and Gareth got married and they moved to a small town in Oregon where they started a new life together. I remained in Seattle, focused on my work and my friends. I even started dating again, tentatively, cautiously, but with a renewed sense of hope. I never forgot about Vivienne or the pain and betrayal that had shattered our marriage. But I also learned the importance of forgiveness, compassion, and the resilience of the human spirit. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and sometimes the greatest challenges can lead to the greatest growth. In the end, I emerged from the wreckage of my marriage a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person. And for that, I am grateful.